I know, but still. I wanted to make sure I was doing my too. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Ogamian
Yeah.
and Zekowitz are kind of cutting it a little close. Okay, so I tried my best to like look at, I'm kind of curious about the youth truth stuff. Like, I really care most about parents at this moment, just the change in their perception. Because kids are who they are, but like, the staff responsible, was it really a milestone? So we will call the meeting, oh my gosh, what am I saying? To order. Sorry about that. I apologize to everyone who's listening. At 4:30 p.m. Present we have myself. Okay, Trustee Ogamian is coming now, so we can put him in at 4:30 still. Okay, so let's get started. Public comments on closed session items. At this time, any person may address the board on any closed session item or any item not listed on the agenda. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the board cannot consider issues or take action on requests during this comment period. Time is limited to 3 minutes per person per item, 20 minutes per topic. And the fact that we have no audience members, I think it is safe to say we do not have any public comment on closed session. Now on to closed session items. Oh, okay. So we have conference, the real property negotiator. So one, property parcel number 117-040-055. Agency negotiator, superintendent, negotiating party, parties. Okay, I need to know how to say his last name. So is it Paul Cirillo? Cirillo. Okay. I need to do. Okay, Cirillo. Under negotiation, request of ingress, egress, easement off of Kelly Road. C2, public employee discipline dismissal release. C3, public employee performance evaluation. Superintendent. C4, conference with labor negotiators. So we will adjourn at 4:31 to close session. Meeting to order at 6:08. If we could all stand for Pledge of Allegiance, please. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So moving on to approval of agenda order. The board reserves the right to change the order in which agenda items are discussed and are acted upon at this meeting. Subject to further action by the board, the agenda for this meeting is to be approved as presented. Items may be added to this agenda for discussion or action only as permitted by the Brown Act. So do I have a motion to approve the agenda order?
I'll make a motion to move.
Okay, trustee Zekowitz. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, trustee Ogamian. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And then we have trustee Locust White as absent. Okay. Now on to, oh, sorry, there was no action taken and closed. So moving on to public comment on consent and non-agenda items. The public may address the board on any consent or non-agenda item. Pursuant to the Brown Act, during this period, the board cannot consider issues or take action on any item not listed on the agenda. Time is limited to 3 minutes per person per item, 20 minutes per topic. Do we have any public comment? Okay. I know, right? I'm like just like staring at you guys out loud. Okay, and then closed session, reportable action taken, there is none. So on to consent calendar. The CUSD Board of Trustees utilizes a consent calendar for items that require the approval of the board, but are of routine nature. They act upon these items in one vote. Any member may remove an item for additional questions. Board members receive their agendas and backup materials 7 days in advance of our meetings. They have the opportunity to ask questions and to do research prior to our meeting. It is their intent to handle the routine items expeditiously, so they have time to address issues that are more serious. So would anyone like to pull an agenda item? Are there any questions that or clarification that needs to happen on any agenda items? Or a motion?
Move to approve consent calendar.
Okay. Trustee Garrison makes a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, trustee Zekowitz. Preferential?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any? Oh my gosh, any opposed? Seriously, it's been a long week already. Okay, none. Okay. And then absent. I know it is, but it's also April. Okay, and then trustee Lopez White. Okay, so now moving on to association reports. So CSEA. Okay, so no report this evening. Teachers Association of Cloverdale.
No report.
No report. Okay, Jefferson Elementary School. Submitted.
Good evening. Quiet month of March, so my report's quite small, but it is as submitted.
Thank you. Now moving on to Washington.
Hello, everybody. You have my report as submitted. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Cloverdale High School.
You have my report as submitted. We have 5 lambs in our garden that we just got last night, so if you would like to come see them, come see me after the board meeting.
Right on.
Thank you. And then moving on to Special Education and Student Services Report.
Oh, you. Oh, are you kidding?
Reading lambs? Oh my God, that's such a
I can't beat lambs.
I don't even know if I call it a dad joke.
That's a good one.
You have my report as submitted.
Thank you. Okay, now moving on to Maintenance, Operations, and Transportation Report.
You skipped one.
Oh, sorry, I did. Oh, sorry. I was gonna make a lamb joke, but I didn't really have one off the top of my head. Okay, educational services report. My bad on that one.
I will say both ones you just mentioned are as submitted.
Okay. So MOT and, okay. Student board representative.
CHS students were welcomed back from spring break 2 weeks ago, and the junior and senior class also had their prom the weekend after. Many students, a part of FFA, attended the state leadership conference, with even a few students making it as finalists in state positions. Spring sports have their roll on with many different matches, meets, and games being played weekly. And sort of as Mr. Harper mentioned, we got lambs at the school, and along with our anatomy class, they welcomed horses to study them. Yeah.
Very cool. Thank you so much. Now on to board reports. Who would like to start first?
I'll go ahead. This past month's been a little busy. Got involved with the elementary school and Miss Noyes and Michelle and a few others now. We're starting a small committee for the gardens program to get the students and staff involved and make it a simple and cohesive, easy, but still a learning program for the kids. Michelle and Heather have been doing a great job of getting the foundation started for this. So it's a work in progress, and it's good to be a part of something like that. Unfortunately, I missed the Measure H meeting, so Glenn will have to talk about that one for me, or Jackie. And that's all I have to report right now. Oh, sorry, JEH, some of the students are starting to do an internship program with a company that I work for, which is pretty neat. It's a neat program, and I look forward to working with them on that.
Thank you.
Yesterday at the Measure H meeting, one of the things we talked about is we're still projected to have the start date for the TKK project June 7th, so that's really exciting, and expect to have all the funding worked out for that. We had our SAR board meeting today. There was no new referrals. That's also in the packet from Nicole. And we just did a review of everyone, and we will be calling some students back for check-in. We have some positive things where a student has had 0 absences. So that is very exciting when you have big improvements like that. So that was fun. The school and city subcommittee was canceled. We are scheduled to have one in August, and if something arises, we can always call like an emergency meeting, I guess, or a special meeting. And then Trustee Lopez White and I had a coffee chat at Washington, and I would say it was really well attended, and there was good questions and conversations that had happened there. So we appreciate everyone coming and the interaction that we have at those. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
I don't have much to say. I do have I believe, a chat tomorrow in CHS, right?
Yep, from 3 to 3:45.
3 to 3:45. Okay. Our DLAC meeting was postponed to next month, but I still have to make an effort to go tour Jefferson, and I think I just don't, because I have 2 kids there, and I'm like, I see everything, but we have to coordinate to go check out Jefferson, and that's all.
Thank you. So just again, to reiterate the coffee chat, it would be great to have a good attendance, to just kind of sit and be able to mingle and talk to everyone tomorrow in the makerspace. I attended the LCAP meeting. It would be great if more of us would be at that process, because I believe there were 5 of us total. And it would just be wonderful for, the community as well as other staff and students to even look and see kind of what the overall plan for the district is and have their input. We were just going over a few of the goals, cleaning up some language and whatnot, and looking at the metrics from last year. because this is technically the first year of our 3-year plan for the LCAP. Also, I'm going to make my way over to Washington this Friday because I have a day off, which I'm very excited about, but my kid is very mad about, but at least she has next Friday and the following Monday off, so she can deal with it. But I'm excited to go and get a tour and be able to check out Washington Middle School. So that is all from me for now. Okay, so now on to you for the Youth Truth Survey results.
So I know that we have a few different presentations tonight and stuff, so basically I just put that information in there. If you have any questions or anything, any areas you would like maybe the principals at the next meeting to be able to discuss or bring back more information. One thing that we did notice is we have the 4 sites in there, but we don't have the entire district synopsis, so that'll be in our next one. But if anybody has any, we'll make a, we'll talk a little bit about those next time, but I just wanted to kind of get it out there, get the information, so you guys can look at it, as well as if you had any questions when you first started the week, like I said, might be able to bring more information back. Does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask about that?
So it's
I
more,
know it's quite a bit.
it's more comment for me. I loved to see the parent responses and whatnot, because I mean, these 2 surveys as a fellow teacher, like they're all, you know what I mean, students and staff and whatnot and everything depending on the day I feel, but it was nice to see a little bit more. I mean, let's be honest, that's seriously what ends up happening, but
I don't know what you mean. Could
I
you
know.
explain?
I could, but I won't, to save time. But it was really nice to see the amount of parent Youth Truth surveys filled out, as well as the positive change in a lot of their feedback. So that, I don't have any questions, but it was nice, and I at least wanted to acknowledge that.
Anybody else? Okay, we'll continue that discussion next month, so thank you. And like I said, a couple of you are new. It says confidential in there. I don't know why it says confidential. There's really nothing identifiable at all.
No.
It's just apparently what we were told is the company writes that on there. I don't know why. So it's stuff that we post on our website. It's 0 identifiable information that's on there.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now on to report discussion, R1, Measure H update.
I believe Jackie just gave the update.
Yeah, that's exciting. That is very exciting. Okay, R2, UTK Early Education Facilities Project update, I'm guessing.
We're going to make those into one.
Okay, that's what I
Update.
thought, okay. Okay, now on to R3, South Cloverdale property presentation regarding the sale of the property.
Yeah, so at the last meeting, we talked about the process that it takes to be able to potentially sell that. I believe I sent you guys stuff that I got off the internet that shows that, not the internet, but a law firm, I want to say it was 4 years ago, came out with kind of the process for that. And I'll post that on the website as well. So I think we're getting to the point to where we need to start making a decision about what we're going to do. And so I don't know that I mean, again, there's basically at this point 2 decisions to make, or 1 decision with 2 choices. Either we start looking at possibly selling the property, or we don't. And if we choose option 2 where we don't, then we need to have a farther discussion about what are we going to do, what is our plan for that property? Because it is an asset that is sitting there that is tying up our Measure H funds, essentially, that's sitting there. So you'll notice that on there, it basically talks about several committees we have to form, and also you have to offer the asset to other organizations, other school districts, and it gives you a list of different things. And that's why I'm saying that it's not as easy as it would be if I personally own the property, you just put a for sale sign on it and you sell it, right? The school district, when they go to try to sell surplus land, that's what it's called, is surplus land, there is a pretty involved, and the reason why it takes up to 18 months is because when you do, let's say, put it out there for other entities, there's a certain amount of time frame it has to be out there for. And so that's not going to get any less of a time frame. So the more we kind of kick the can down the road, the farther that puts us being able to do something with that asset down the road, if we were to do that. And then another thing to think of is that, yes, I know that the property itself is probably increasing in value, but I would argue, is it increasing in value enough that the cost of things and the materials is increasing at the same rate or less? I don't know that for sure, but I'd guess that they're probably pretty close. If not, we're a little bit less on it getting more, getting worth more compared to what. And what point I'm trying to make is that the $1.6 million or $2 million we got into it 4 or 5 years ago or 4 years ago, is that in today's dollars worth what we've got to be able to buy what we could have bought with the $2 million before. Does that make sense? And to be clear is that if we do sell it, that money does go back into Measure H where it came from, which has the same parameters that it would be then. So I know I keep throwing it out there and getting that, but would you like me to start going forward and putting stuff on the agenda such that we kind of start that process to go? Because we got to be sure, because once that process starts, we're going to have to get consultants on board to help us walk through there, because that is not in my wheelhouse. How to do that. I don't think it's on any superintendent. Well, I shouldn't say none, but it's very seldom that happens. So it is, and as you see, it's a pretty rigorous, deep process to do that, and we don't want to do that incorrectly. So that's a lot for you guys right now, but any feedback or direction would be helpful.
It seems to me that we don't know what we want to do with the property, so we should try to start the process of selling it. But I mean, unless anyone has any ideas.
My concerns are they're doing studies with schools and where they're located, and that's right next to a freeway. What's the future potential that California says we can't build anything there that a student could be on because of the fumes coming off the freeway? It's a great property, don't get me wrong, but you're a rock throw away from the emissions and all the studies they're starting to come out with for schools. It's a great property. I just don't see, with the position we're in, I think we should take care of what we have and use the money like we're using it for new portables, rather than
Portables.
or new classrooms. Sorry, getting rid of the portables.
That's a
Thank you for
four-letter word.
correcting me. That makes more sense for the students, to me, for their well-being, to have facilities that are maintained that they already are inhabiting, or building new ones so they can inhabit them. My vote is to start looking at the option of selling.
I would agree, or Jackie, do you want to chime in right now?
Well, I'm not in favor of selling it. I feel like it's an asset, and that I know there's concerns about fire safety and stuff, but we've been able to figure out ways to work with people in the community for that. I feel like the purpose of purchasing that was to expand. We've talked about, Trustee Lopez White has brought up about expanding our ag program there, and growing that. And I know we don't have the funds now, but if that is something that we in the future get grant funding for, we don't have space for that. And if we were to sell it, and right now we have that, and I don't feel like we may not have the funds for it now, but we have the property for it, so that if we do get the funding, however that is, we will already have the land where if we get rid of it, there's no other opportunity for us to have the land. So I'm not in favor of selling it. And I feel like the market value of the land now is not a good time to sell. But that's my opinion.
And I don't have a
Yeah.
recommendation at all. I really don't. I see all sides, to be honest with you. I do. I just know that it does come up often, and I want to be able to have, I'd like to have a definitive answer of what we're doing with it, because right now it's kind of like, well, we're looking at options.
Yeah.
And it needs to not be on anticipations of hopes and future. I mean, we got to be real about this too. Like, it can't just be something we hang on to that's costing money and losing the value. Right?
Well, and the only thing, because, I mean, I've always, from day one, since being on the board, I'm all for selling it. Again, Jackie, you make some really great, valid points. I totally understand them, and I just think though, with the fact that we're having the next couple of years barely making our 3% state reserve or like state mandate and then holding on to it, it just, the only concern though I have with selling it, so I'm gonna be like devil's advocate here, is the consultant fees to be able to get the property sold. I think I'm all forward, like for selling it, but the problem is then how much money is it gonna cost us to actually sell the property? And is that worth it? I think is where my brain's at the moment. Sorry not to be vague, or I guess I'm not being
And
vague.
I can
but
certainly
that I would like to know.
get an estimate of
Okay.
what that could potentially cost, yes.
So what's, just to maintain the property, are you saying we're getting help from other people to help kind of mitigate the fire?
Yeah, so
Okay, and that's not costing us any, how much is that costing us?
nothing. So
Okay.
last year, the Cloverdale Fire Department or Northern Sonoma, however you, I don't know, because the entities seem like they're the same. They have a bulldozer for that specific purpose. And we made an agreement with Chief Jenkins at that time to, he was going to use our land, our property to kind of train some people to cut in fire roads and fire blocks. And so he went around our property and used that for that. I would assume he would continue to do that because
Okay.
it's hard to find land to do that on. And that did mitigate it because we did have a fire there last year. So yes, we also talked about potentially putting some livestock on there. The only the fire mitigation is an issue. The other issue I'm looking at too with blank land is again, like I said a month or so ago, we had somebody just go out there and joyride on it, right? I'm concerned. I noticed that now at the Baumgartner Ranch, they're starting to pick back up again and work on that project. When that project finishes, that our property just seems extremely inviting for people to come over and play in that property or to use that property and stuff too. So there's a fire issue, but there's also a liability issue with just having blank. We're lucky right now because the tribal housing actually has 24/7 security out there, so that helps us a little bit, but eventually that will go away. It is in a part of town where it's pretty dark and it's fairly, it's pretty tough to see as far as that goes. But those are just some of my concerns that I have just as the superintendent of the district is all.
And I love the idea of expanding programs, but between student enrollment pretty much not fluctuating. I know we're getting some new, obviously, housing developments, but historically we've seen data of really student enrollment not really rising too much or dipping too low. And on top of that, we've had so many presentations about what it would cost to actually build on it that I don't foresee us even the next decade being able to have the money somehow to be able to even develop that, I guess. And it makes me sad because I'd love to keep it, but I just don't think it's feasible. That's all.
So I will try to figure out the approximate or potential costs of being able to sell. It's a good question. I don't think they'll be that high because I think it has more to do with having the meetings and things like that too, as far as that goes. But I'll certainly ask that question.
So question, would the fees, where would those fees then be taken from? What category? Would that be money we would make up then with the profit? From going back into Measure H, do you know what I mean? I'm
I
guessing.
think that's the question we would have to ask.
Just asking
So
what
for example,
category. Okay.
on a home sale of a real estate agent, right, they usually take it out of
The profit.
the transaction,
Yeah.
basically, right? And so I don't know. I'd have to ask that question. I would assume some of that, but maybe not all of that because I can't imagine somebody holding the meetings and then not getting paid for
All the
18
hopes
months later, potentially. But I don't know. I don't know unless I ask.
Any other thoughts, questions?
The board did receive we inquired about what it would cost to develop that land, so we do have data on.
Bill Fields and also CEQA reports and yes.
Yes, and it was roughly, I don't even throw out a number because it was pretty high.
It was double digits. Millions.
Well, permits alone.
There was also a presentation about building housing
Correct.
on it as well.
And that's what I mean. We can certainly dive into all those. That does take capital per se, unless we work out a deal. But these are all things that we can certainly go down. I just wanted to get, again, I'm just trying to have some ideas of where we're headed. Those don't cost anything right now to get those. People have come and talk to about us, but once we start going that road, then it'll start costing a little bit. But we certainly can. I mean, there is no rush per se. We do have the property, but yeah, I'm just trying to get information that we would need for us to be able to make those decisions on that. So I can certainly ask that question if there's even people that are willing to do some sort of an in-kind trade-ish type thing. For example, you know, somebody wanted to build a bunch of houses and also build some apartments that they would give us those apartments in lieu in exchange for the land and things like that. I don't know. I could certainly look into that. Okay. All right.
You feel you have enough direction?
I have plenty.
Okay, good. Okay, now on to our CTE presentation. Okay, is anybody else?
Hello, everyone. My name is Riley Dale. I am the CTE coordinator for our school district. I've been a part of CTE education my entire career, and I also get to wear the hat as a CTE teacher in addition to the coordinator. So I teach the floral design and work experience classes here. A little background about me, I'm a Cloverdale transplant, and I am also a product of a very successful CTE program. So I'm very passionate about what CTE can do for students because I'm a product of it. And I would be remiss if I also didn't share that I have two little baby girls. I have a 1-year-old, she just turned 1, and a 2-year-old, and every day, all the decisions that I make, I have those 2 girls in the back of my mind because I'm building systems for them for a school that they're going to be at one day. So today I'm going to talk to you about what is CTE because it's a little more complex than I think people realize, and so I'll break it down for you. What does CTE look like in our school district? We're going to talk about money. Don't worry, I'm not asking for any tonight. And then also talk about our vision that we have for CTE for the next 5 years. So what is career technical education? So in CTE, we have these things called pathways. There are many different pathways. You might be familiar with like auto mechanics or construction pathways. The state has identified priority pathways where we know that there are jobs. And then within our state, we've narrowed down like within our counties basically where there are priority pathways, and they're 2 to 3 course pathways that we can offer students that we know are aligned where the jobs are at. So we are teaching kids about standards that are industry level and that will lead them to a high skill, high wage job so that we know our students can make money right out of high school, which is great. So our 2 to 3 course pathways, we have our concentrator courses. It's introductory level content. They're getting familiar with that industry. And then the capstone is where they're really learning about the advanced skills that you will need, the certifications. They're doing a lot of hands-on projects. For example, our farm to table class was able to go to the culinary, it's called Institute over in St. Helena. So it's a very neat experience that they have that's aligned with the curriculum that they're learning in their classroom. There's industry alignment to our pathways. So all of the stuff that we teach in our classes is aligned to what people in our communities need students to know if they were to be hired directly out of high school or after a certification program. So we always want to make sure that the facilities are industry aligned, that the certifications that they're getting will prepare them for the workforce. We also have an advisory board, which Jenny sits on, and so that advisory board is made up of industry professionals within our Cloverdale community that are giving us input on what we need to be teaching in our classes and what our spaces should look like to help direct us as the teachers to set our students up for success. We also articulate with community colleges in our CTE world. So we partner with SRJC. They have been awesome partners this year. We've been able to be a leader in our county for offering CCAP agreements. And so our students are some of the first that have a JC professor on our campus. That is, our students are getting early college credits. So that's a really neat thing. And we know that students don't necessarily need a 4-year degree like they used to maybe a decade or two ago. What employers are looking for is students who have transferable skills, which are like our soft skills, right? I call them professional skills. But also students who have a passion for the industry, have some common sense about the workspace that they're in. And so the JC is a great place for students to get just a little bit more expertise before going into the workforce. And then finally, CTE is a state priority. So for the last almost decade, $500 million has been allocated in the state budget towards career technical education. And in the last few years, $1 billion has been allocated towards CTE because the state recognizes that these programs work and they're investing in them. So I want to share some data that the state has actually provided that helps us understand why they're investing in it. So this is a big chart, and there's lots of numbers. I'll translate it for you. Basically, this is a bunch of data that's been collected about CTE completers or students who have taken CTE classes and their graduation rates. So we fall in the Bay Area region, which is region 3 that I've highlighted. And you can see, well, I don't know if you can see, but over here in this column, it says that students who complete a CTE pathway are 98.7% likely to graduate. That's an extremely high and successful number, again, proving why the state wants to invest in these programs. Dabblers, who are students who take, say they take floral design and then they're taking construction, so they've taken 2 different pathways, that concentrator course. Those types of students are 94.6% likely to graduate. Students who have taken a single CTE class are 89% likely to graduate. And students who haven't had any CTE classes are only 71.3% likely to graduate. So you can see that there's a drastic difference and see how successful CTE classes make students, because we're building relationships in the classroom and we're helping mentor students on things beyond just what they're learning in our spaces. Now this slide, it looks similar, but I think it might be a little bit more exciting to you because it translates to dollars. This slide is about attendance. So we know that attendance means money. The more students who come to school, the more money our schools get, right? So CTE pathway completers are 95.4% likely to show up to school. And then I won't go over the middle two, but just know that non-CTE students, so students who haven't had the chance to take a CTE class yet, or maybe they just have chosen not to, are only 80% likely to show up to school. So we're losing a huge demographic of students on a daily basis if they're not in a CTE space. And again, it goes back to those relationships that they have with the teachers and the cohort of students who share a similar passion to them. It's extremely valuable. So what does CTE look like at CUSD? And yes, these are all our students that are in CTE classes. So we have a child development pathway. In the concentrator course, or the first course they take of the pathway, they do get an early college credit. That's the dual enrollment or CCAP agreement for child 10, where the JC professor came in. And then we have child 2, where there's also a CCAP agreement for doing observation hours. I'll talk about the the agreements later. We have our agriculture department, which has many pathways. I'm proud to teach one of them, which is floral design. We also have a farm to table class, which is hands down our coolest, most popular CTE pathway that we have, and it's taught by an amazing teacher, Angelica Rigi. She's super talented. We have animal science, so students take agriculture biology. That's something pretty much all students have to, they don't have to, I guess, but they take either regular bio or ag bio. So this is a great option for them. Then they take animal anatomy and physiology, and the capstone course for that, so their culminating experience, is vet science, which is also going to be a CCAP agreement class for next year. We have arts, media, and entertainment taught by our art teacher. And then work experience isn't an official pathway, but it is a very important class that we get to offer students that it allows students who are really interested in getting those skills through a job or having an internship. It gives them graduation credit for doing that. So I've loved doing this, and I think kids really thrive in this classroom. So work experience is a neat addition that we have here at CHS. There are some changes in CTE for next year that I do think are important to share. Because of budget cuts, construction is not coming back next year, but we are offering ag construction to hopefully serve that population of students that would have been interested in it. And again, because of budget cuts, the wheel class, which is a really neat class that I helped write, and I got to teach it last year. It's all freshmen. They take 9 weeks of all of our pathways, and they get to learn about it and see if that's what they want, and then choose the pathway that they would like to pursue. So we've been able to offer this the last 2 years. We were grant funded to start this up, but sadly because of budget cuts, we're not able to offer it next year. And then child development 2 is a class that only had 13 students sign up for, so some tough decisions might need to be made because we're short-staffed, and so there are pros and cons of being able to offer that class, but it's important for you to know about. So for an iceberg, when we see an iceberg, or if I've never seen an iceberg, but if we were to imagine an iceberg out in the water, all we see is what's on the surface, right? And so we might think of that as the success. And then we don't see everything that's under the water. So I think when people hear CTE, they think of the success as all of the money that we get to get because of the grant opportunities and what the state is willing to invest in them. But money isn't all that matters. There are a lot of things that happen under the surface level to make that money come to life. And so I want to share that in the last few years, we've received $1,718,000 for our CTE programs. So that's a really big win for our school district. And it does feel like that's the success, right? Like we have money to back all the great things that we are doing. And I want to share with you also what we are doing with this money and why we got the money. So I'll do that in just a moment. But as I'm talking about why we have this money, I want us to also think about what makes that money possible. All of our grants have specific objectives to them, so we write to these objectives, and that's why we get the money, that the state is saying, yes, these are fantastic objectives. We want to give this money to you because you've got some really exciting goals. So there are objectives tied to all of the dollars. We are supposed to be serving or supporting targeted, special, unduplicated populations. So an example of an unduplicated population would be students in foster care or African American students. So how can we help these specific unduplicated populations be successful in CTE classes? We need to have a sustainability plan. So every time I write a grant, we talk about, I try and come up to the best of my ability with a plan for when this money runs out, what are we going to do? And we all know that money we don't know what's going on with it right now. And so it is important that as we build and build and build, we also need to sustain. So keep that in the back of your mind as I'm talking about our grants that we've received. And then finally, we need to provide a match. So this is our skin in the game. So for every dollar that the state gives us, we need to say that we are pledging $2 from our end towards CTE. Most of our match comes from salaries from our credentialed CTE teachers. So keep all this in mind. So we get some ongoing grants on an annual basis, and there are two that really stand out. So we have the incentive grant that incentivizes our high school to be as good as we possibly can, to reflect on our practices and to make improvements every year, to have a productive advisory committee, to make sure students are participating in leadership organizations or CTSOs. So by doing all of these great things, we get funded for them, and the better we do on our scorecard, the more money we get, which is great. So on average, we're receiving around $85,000 a year. And then we also have our agriculture incentive grant, so that's specific just to the ag classes. The requirements for this grant, as an ag teacher, are a little crazy. So we need to participate in 9 professional development events a year to be able to get this funding. So it's a lot of time away from families. And it also requires us to submit a lot of documentation. But we do it because every penny is worth it for our students. So that money will go towards pretty much paying for our professional development, which helps us in our classrooms. And then also we pay our FFA membership dues. And then, sorry, it didn't explain the incentive grant. What we use that money for is for paying a lot of the consumables that we use in the classroom. So like my flowers for my class, or the seeds for our garden, or the wood for the construction. So that's what the money goes towards. Any questions so far? No? Okay. And then we do have some one-time funding, actually a lot of one-time funding, which is great. And so there are grant terms. They're around 3 years. And so I'll share with you what these are. We have a CTE development, or Chris and I call it the BACCC grant, and we received $268,000 to develop CTE here. That's the reason I'm here, is because of this grant that was written before I was even an employee at CUSD. So thank you, Ronnie, for that. And so the goal of that grant is to design and implement our wheel class that we have at the high school. Grow our CTE pathways. It was a little vague, but I think we're doing well. Implement work experience and early college credit for work experience. Check, we've done that, which is great. And then it also does provide me with a stipend for all of the work that I do and the knowledge that I bring to this position, because I spend a lot of time researching, a lot of time outside of contractual hours to pull some of this stuff off, well, most of the stuff off. So we also have an education pathways grant. We're in a consortium for this money, which means that we work with other schools to be able to carry out these goals. So essentially, we're just building our child development pathway with this money, and we're also supporting our Hispanic population. That's the unduplicated population. We have our ag pathway expansion. I feel like we've done good on this one. So the goal was to add floral and animal science pathways, and we did both of those. The goal is also to support Hispanic students, add a greenhouse, a barn, and garden improvements, which I think we definitely have. It's transformed in the last 12 months. Purchase an ag suburban, which we've also been able to do with the help of the CTE Foundation, and it has been transformational to how we function as a department. We have kids in it all the time going on field trips. We're not driving our personal vehicles to go do project visits anymore. It's been really helpful for us. And then also provide stipend for ag teachers to oversee all of the FFA stuff that we do, and work-based learning. So the time that we spend going to pick up the sheep, and also going to state FFA convention. I don't think we log all of the hours that we do, but we try to, and Mrs. Regi logged 250 hours last year. So it is a lot of work, and I think this stipend is helping prevent burnout as well. And then finally, this is the big one, our Golden State Pathways Grant. We've received almost $1 million from the state this past year to support 3 specific pathways: our farm to table, our child development, and our animal science pathways. And so the goal of GSPP, Golden State Pathways, is to try and integrate curriculum across campus, so it's not CTE on its own island, but to bring gen ed into our world. So work experience was a big part of what we wrote into that. So then once students are done with their pathway, now we're trying to push them into a job or an internship their junior or senior year to give them real world experience that will be beneficial to them before they leave our space. And we know they'll be successful because they've had some sort of positive mentorship and also worked in the workforce. Ensure capstone classes can be offered was one of the goals. Work towards making CTE a graduation requirement, so $1 million towards that. And then also some renovation for our facilities. I don't know if you've been in the farm to table classroom, but it is straight out of the 60s. So we have some upgrades that we need to do. Any questions on these grants? No? Okay, great. This is something that I wanted to share. Ag education has been around for over 100 years. And when we're in CTE meetings all the time, the other pathways are talking about how has ag ed been so successful? And our answer as ag teachers has always been because of this thing we call the 3-ring model. And so I feel like we can duplicate that 3-ring model from the ag world and apply it to all of our pathways. And so this was kind of what I came up with and what I think's exciting. So rigor. Are students getting a valuable educational experience in their pathways? There are 2 to 3 courses offered to them that help build industry skills that lead them to a livable wage job. Are we meeting CTE standards? And so holding ourselves to high expectations for rigor in our CTE spaces. Relevance. All of the pathways that we offer are relevant to our community needs, workforce needs, and also we are teaching students through work experiences or internships that what they do matters and what they're learning is important. And then finally, building relationships. As somebody who's been an FFA teacher, I know how important this ring is because students are building relationships with each other outside of their classes. So FFA is an example of a career technical student organization or a CTSO, but every pathway does have a CTSO. So how can we get all of our pathways doing these 3 things? And I think that's what we should be striving for. So this is always in the back of our mind when we're talking about building successful CTE programs here at CHS. And then I want to end with our 5-year goals. These are my goals. They are not formal goals. They have not been adopted by you guys or anybody, but they're something that these are consistent things that pop up that I feel are really important. So I do want to share with you the vision so that we're always moving forward. Have a formalized work-based learning continuum. So from the middle school all the way through high school, their senior year, we are scaffolding work-based learning skills. And so portfolio might be a little piece of that puzzle, but really elevating that experience for students and starting it a little bit earlier. Have CTE completion, that's my vote, or a 2-course completion as a dabbler as a graduation requirement. This is something we need to work towards. Bringing the wheel class to the middle school. It has been so great at CHS. I think kids really like that they're just learning skills in all these industries, even if they don't end up choosing that pathway, right? But we can bring it to the middle school so that by the time they get to us at the high school, they know what they want to do. Our workforce demands in Sonoma County, the number 1 is healthcare. So I think we should investigate doing a healthcare pathway. That's where the jobs are, and I think we can work with our science department to help that come to life. Add strong integrated pathways. So when I envision this, that would mean that our construction students are also taking a geometry construction class. So their gen ed classes are aligned with what they're doing hands-on in their CTE courses. Enhance our CTE facilities. So there's lots of upgrades that we can do. I think child development is going in a really great direction right now. And so if there's a way for us to offer like a library hour, that'd be really neat, but we need a space to do that, right? So students can have like a live lab on campus. And then adopt and incorporate that 3-ring CTE model that I just shared into all of our CTE pathways. So these are my goals, and I do want to share them with you because I'm always trying to move us forward. And so, yeah, that is going to wrap up my presentation. I would love to invite you to our classes. I checked with all the teachers first, and they would love to have you come and watch us teach. I know you've probably popped in, but like bell to bell, see what we're doing. We're moving, we're hustling, and we're learning great stuff. If you have any questions at all, please let me know, but I also threw my contact information up here for you.
Any questions, guys?
In regards to your 5-year goal, have you started targeting any healthcare pathways? Because I know Mendocino College does have a couple new programs going on. How would that, have you investigated that, or are you just stating that?
So we have a lot of new pathways this
Okay.
year, so I'm really focusing on executing those initiatives first, and then I think down the road, maybe when we're a little bit more fiscally secure, then that's something that we can pursue. But yeah, there are great local partners that we can use to help make that dream come to life, and do some CCAP agreements maybe, so then the JC is taking on those capstone classes, and it's not like we need to have a credentialed person here.
Okay.
And we could, though. I know Natalie Lewis would qualify. She's our school nurse. She would qualify to be a CTE teacher. So beyond that, haven't investigated too much, because it does feel like till we get financially more stable, that might be a 2 or 3 year down the road discussion. Thank you.
Any other questions?
It's great.
Yeah, I
Thanks.
really appreciate you coming and giving this. It's awesome to see. I'm going to do and go and visit at the farm to table class on Friday. Maybe to mooch food off of them, but we shall see. But it's just
As you
great to
should.
see super positive things that are happening at CHS, and I love the 5-year plan. It's awesome, Riley. You're doing a great job. So
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
I know we all appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
It's a very positive thing, and I'm just so grateful to have you and
Thanks.
the rest of our staff that are teaching it. With the grant funding, because they only last so long, how do we ensure that with our current budget situation that we will be able to continue these programs? Are you continually going to be writing grants to fund these, or whether or not it's the same, or to just continue expanding on things? What does that look like?
So for sustaining it, I would say the biggest strategic move that we've done under Krista's guidance is to take salaries out of as many grants as possible and to take ownership of that as a district. So that's been great. And then to sustain it, we really have to get butts and seats, right? So I think adding that graduation requirement will help sustain the program, because more students will be taking that class, and we won't be in a situation like we are with Child Development 2 this year, because if students know they need to take it to graduate, we can fill classes. So to me, that the capstone courses are what we need to sustain, and to prioritize that maybe even if numbers are low one year, that we still offer them, because they're like our version of AP. Like, kids want to be in these classes. They care about this industry. They want to gain more expertise. So really making that a top priority is just the best way we can sustain it.
And I would add to that, excuse me, that in my experience, what she's talking about is exactly right. I think where people run into difficulties is when they get these new grants and they put ongoing costs in them, right? So what we're talking about is being able to use a nice influx of monies to be able to bring up our facilities and plant to standards. And then that way, that is a good use of those funds, because those aren't really necessarily at the same level in ongoing, right? Once you get, for example, once the kitchen's up to par, yes, there's some maintenance cost, but brunt of the cost isn't getting it to that level. And so I think that's the key, is being able to, because as she's saying, the signups are going to drive the classes, right? Because the kids are going to go there. But I think if you can get out of the constant or the ongoing costs, the more likelihood of things continuing, I think is the best way to go. And as you notice, what she wrote in a lot of those grants, we're increasing that portion of it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Any others?
Actually, I do at random. I was in FFA many years ago.
Awesome.
Do they still do the farms teams and small engines and all those the other units?
Yeah, they offer that, and I think when we have ag construction, we'll probably maybe
Give it
do
to that.
some of those teams. But right now, our team, I coach the floral design team, so
Yeah.
we competitively travel,
Right.
and the girls design, and they do such a good job. And we also have a horse evaluation team, so they're evaluating them on their body composition, the way that they trot. So Ms. DeMarta coaches that, and then Mrs. Regi coaches a vegetable crop judging team where they look at vegetables all day.
Yeah.
And kids are into it. They really are. So those are our teams. And then we do also have a Parley Pro team, 2 of them actually, that we bring to competitions. And so it's like a debate team basically, but they're talking about ag issues or FFA issues. And I coach that too. And
cool.
it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. They just competed at state last week.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, thank you so much. We
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so now moving on to R5, Board Policy 6142.7, Physical Education and Activity Exemptions.
I believe it was actually Ashley that wanted to bring
Yeah, I know,
this back.
right?
So we can totally carry it over to next time if
Okay.
you want. So it might be appropriate, because I think she has some questions about it, so.
Is everyone good with that?
Can we, table it?
Yep, we'll
Table
table
it
it
to
and
next-
then carry it over too. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so on to mobile communication device use in the classroom, R6.
I believe I have some musketeers coming up here to give us a presentation.
We are the Musketeers. We're the Musketeers.
As submitted? I'm just kidding.
As submitted. You have the handbook. Well, I'm here first only because I got up first. I would say our cell phone policy, the policy is off and away. That's how we handle that at school. So when the students arrive, they can have their phone out until the 8 o'clock bell rings. When the 8 o'clock bell rings, the phones are turned off and put away. And we do that every single day. In preparation of this, I was in the cafeteria at about 5 minutes to 8, and I just waited because the students are in there, they're grabbing their breakfast and all of that, and they're talking a little bit, but there are a lot of phones out. And at 8 o'clock, when the bell rang, I saw the phones get put away. It was amazing, and it wasn't because I was scowling at them either. It was a habit that I could see unfolding in front of us. And so having the cell phones off and away during the day is great. It's working moderately well. So I can't say it's perfect because there's always a way to sneak a phone. A school is not going to solve that particular problem, but we can just try to address it as much as possible. And so I would say that we are doing a very good job with the enforcement of the cell phones, and of course, we still run into some cell phones. So what we do is we will often give a warning. My warnings usually look like, would you like to take your phone, turn it off, and put it in your backpack, or do you want me to have it for the full day? They usually say, I'd rather keep it. And I said, great, that's a good choice. Put that thing in the backpack and turn it off. And we tend to do things like that, and it works out pretty well. Our teachers also they're excellent at keeping cell phones out of the classroom, and I think it's fantastic. They give a warning. If the warning is not heeded, then the phone is confiscated during class, taken to the office, and the student can pick it up at the end of the day. If that happens again, then the parents have to come and pick up the cell phone. And that tends to be where we start getting a little bit more traction, because sometimes families have other things to do than come and pick up the cell phone and things like that. So that's been very, very helpful. Another test that I kind of assess about phones is just the amount of students that we have being incredibly active during break and during lunch. So the play structure is incredibly crowded and busy. The library is full. The soccer field has soccer and kickball. We have the 7th and 8th graders playing basketball, baseball, and running around the school. We have so much going on. And what that means, the students aren't looking at their phones. And so I believe if we allowed phones during those times, we would not see all that we see. With all of the activities going on and all of that, I think we would see a lot of students standing in groups, heads down. And that is not a good look, in my opinion, at a middle school. So I think we are doing everything we can right now to address the cell phones, but it's also a moving target. So I have a feeling in my career I'm not going to say, guess what, I solved the cell phone problem. But I think it's something that we do really want to push, because it's not benign, the cell phone issues. They are not benign on any way you look at it. So we also were trying to educate. We were really trying to pull together kind of an educational night about cell phones, and we're still kind of working on that. It's probably a fall thing now and not a spring, which we had wanted. So that is where we are with that.
Now, can I ask you, Shauna? How do you guys track the offenses? So is it something you put in Aries? Is it on a Google Doc? Is it something that's accessible to everyone?
It's in Aries.
Okay.
And so that way we can judge it like that. When I'm out and about, I don't log every time I give a warning, but when it's happening in the classroom, the teachers do.
And is everyone like well-versed in how to do it?
Yes.
And to do, okay.
It seems that way to me. I didn't ask that question, so, maybe I should ask that question. But it does seem like it's a process that the staff is familiar with.
Okay. There actually we do news quizzes every week in my history class, and there's a school in Arlington, Virginia, it's called Wakefield High School, that's actually doing an experiment with the magnetic locking pouches. And they're finding actually at the high school especially more interaction like you're talking about. Because obviously I know elementary, but especially middle school, I feel like we have stricter policies whenever it comes to cell phone enforcement, and I would love to see that more at the high school, because you're right, we do get more of that interaction. It's less looking at the phone, it's less issues with social media instances and whatnot, except you're still going to get that because
Yes.
kids and what they're going to do with it and whatnot. But yeah, it was interesting to see the students actually, they interviewed them and they were like, we just love the relationships we're building. Like, so just to see the positive and the pros of it, it's awesome. Like and my students actually sat back and thought, okay, maybe it wouldn't be so bad during a class to not be able to have my cell phone out. So it was kind of cool. So it was a great little like piece on that.
Do I have a second to add one thing? It's a little bit off, but a few years ago when I was a vice principal at Maria Carrillo High School, we did some experiments. And I asked a group of teachers if they would be willing, and they said yes. So the experiment was, how many notifications would an average class receive during a 1-hour period? And so at Maria Carrillo during that time, I don't know what the policy is now, most of our students had the phones in their pockets. So, even though it's on silent, it gives you a little buzz when you're like, oh, I have a notification. Well, what we had the students do was actually just turn the phones up. Turn the volume up, and every single time their phone would ding while the teacher was teaching, they would do a tally. So kids tallied their own notifications during this lecture in AP Biology. And so imagine doing that all over the place, okay? And I'll tell you, the average number of notifications that students were getting, and it's an average class of 30 people, 3,000 notifications, and that was the average number. It went as high, the younger the grades, the more notifications they were getting too. So freshmen, we had numbers between 5,000, 6,000 notifications with the kids, and we couldn't really believe it. And so what that was showing us was that even, kind of out of sight, it's still so distracting, and that the teacher has a million invisible obstacles between him or herself and the class. There's at least 3,000 obstacles between what the teacher is doing and what the kids are receiving. So I think it is important that, we deal with this. And one of the things I tell...
Did you get a notification?
I've had about 14, and they're all from Forrest. Stop, okay? I'm concentrating. I'm trying to learn. One technique I do try to tell parents, especially with middle school, because middle school really is a different animal, in my opinion, than high school. But in middle school, I believe that the silent feature on the cell phone is what is allowing students to have so much more interaction with that phone than their families even know. So what I've told parents who were concerned about the cell phones is, well, hello, how was school? Great. Hey, turn up your phone. Turn it up loud. And every ding, let's take a look at it. As a parent and a child, let me take a look at your phone. You've just said it just dinged 5 times. What's on there? It's the silent feature that allows a lot of secrecy with the phone. So turn it up. That's something that I would recommend for families if they want to know just how often is this going on. Just turn it up. And they don't want to. I'll tell you that right now. Students are like, no, I like the silent feature. And I'm like, oh, I get it, but let's turn it up anyway. Thank you.
Thank you.
I brought a visual. So, little bit of context is last year about 50% of the teachers at Cloverdale High School were new. Then this year it's about 24%. So kind of combined, about 65% of the staff is either in their first or second year at Cloverdale High School. So last year I was new as principal, Sean was new as campus supervisor, and so there was a lot of going back to the kind of basics of what are we doing with different policies. This year has been vastly better than last year. This year, we've really been hammering on the cell phones. Something that we started is an Excel document, so any teacher that tells a student that their phone's out, they put their name on their Excel document, because what we were noticing is when we were just giving those little warnings is they were getting, 6 warnings a day for across all the different classes. And so teachers are putting their names on the documents, and we have the different columns for the teacher's name and their cell phone policy that's being violated. And then if students are doing that multiple times, we take their cell phone. So Sean starts his day every day with walking around with his little jail, and you can see on the top here it has different names of students that have violated the policy more than a few times. And so if they continue to violate the policy, then we take their phone away for longer and longer periods of time. We have some students that are on here for the rest of the school year. There's, I think, only like 33 days left until finals. And so some students get their phone taken away every single day. So it's a struggle, it's not fun. It's being the cell phone police isn't great. It takes a lot of time out of Sean's day because he has to start the day by walking around and collecting all those phones. And then you have students who are like, my mom's picking me up for the dentist appointment, I need my cell phone. And so then, okay, we have to go to Mr. Stewart's office and get the cell phone. So it's a pain. It's a lot better this year than it was last year. We've also really hammered down students being on their cell phones in the hallway during class, because students know that their phones need to be off and in their designated storage location during class time. And last year what students were doing is like, can I go to the bathroom? And then they grab their cell phone out of their backpack, and then they're taking a longer time because they're walking down the hall with their phone out. And so this year that's really gone down because we've been also nailing them on cell phone violations even out of class during instructional time, and that's really helped. So we've seen a really good positive increase, but it's a daily struggle. It's challenging because it's they're, some of them are adults, some of them, they're teenagers, they're young adults, but they're, adults. And so they can have their phone out during break, during lunch, before school and after school. And, high schools are always the most challenging places for the cell phone policy. Usually elementary schools, are pretty, down pat, no, you can't have it. Middle schools typically tend to be a lot more black and white, and then high school, you add in that gray of, well, it can be out during lunch, and so that makes issues. And so, we've talked with parents where it's like, please keep your phone at home, and then some parents are like, absolutely not, my kid needs to have their cell phone because they're driving or they're going elsewhere. So, it's challenging, but we're in a much better place we are this year than previously. I know probably a lot of questions are going to come to me as the high school person, so happy to answer any questions.
Just, has there been ever an idea to just then ban it through the whole day? Like, not even at lunch, or because we're an open campus, obviously policing that would be really difficult, I'm guessing is what the deal is?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I know a lot of
board-
students
the board
just
policy-
rolled their eyes at me when I
The
said
board
that.
policy does, yes, the open campus is an issue, yes.
Yeah.
And board policy does say basically that we're supposed to not have it during academic times, right? And my thought is on that is you could, but I think as difficult as it is to keep it out of the classroom, I think doing that would be really difficult because you don't have them in the classroom, right? They're walking around at lunch, and how are you gonna, it's just, that's a liability to take the cell phone too. But there's a workaround for the pouches now too, they're finding.
I know.
Yeah.
Plus that'd be money that we don't have.
Right. Right. Any questions?
Michelle, are you gonna do anything?
I am.
Is there any support you needed more on the board's end? Or do you feel this is the keep it running the way it
More
is?
personnel would be great. So it's
Whoa.
but yeah, and then just thinking about next year, we're not going to have a vice principal, so it's going to be me and Sean taking care of that, and so that's going to be a challenge.
Just make sure your kids don't. Use their-
Well, I'm
Jackie's
sti-
like, no problem.
Well, and again, I hate to use comparisons, but like, I have the authority to just take the phone myself. Like, and
That's
so,
what we do with this.
Yeah.
So Sean walks around and says,
But
"You
it's
owe me my
Sean
phone," and then
maybe, I hate to say more teachers, but like, you know what I mean?
yeah,
It's,
it's
because we take it and then after certain offenses, we send it up to the office with like a trusted student with a note on it, put it on our student advisor's thing, and then he takes care of that.
Yeah.
But then he's not having to go around and do it. But again, all schools are very different, so it's just me thinking out loud.
What happens if a student doesn't want to hand it over? Like you're saying you're collecting from students daily through the end of the school year. What if they don't want to hand it over? I mean,
we haven't really encountered that because we have pretty good relationships with our students and we talk with our students, we work with them, and it's progressive, so it's not just like, I saw your phone out, bam, like you need to give it to me. And so they've been getting numerous warnings, and we have parent meetings. So next year, I don't know how many more parent meetings we're going to be able to have, but Steve has met with a lot of parents about cell phones. Yeah, usually we don't see like, I refuse to give it to you, because it's more of
I
a
just
restorative conversation.
have heard where it's like an addiction for the students,
Mm-hmm.
and people have like literally destroyed their homes because their parents take it away,
Yeah.
and they're having that withdrawal with it. I just didn't know if any of the students, or maybe they're good at hiding it, so, or they say they don't, like if they're willing to give it up to you at the beginning of the day, I feel like they're learning to live without it, at least in the interim, that, but yeah, I was curious if there was any students that don't turn them over. And,
Yeah.
and then how do you handle that?
We don't necessarily see that, but we'll hear from parents where we say, hey, you should really keep their phone at home or something like that. And we'll have some parents who say, I can't take my kid's phone away. Like some parents are too scared to take their kid's phone away. And this is not the only school where I've seen that. This is all of Sonoma County. So these are all issues that every single school is facing.
Yeah, and I just know that the board had implemented this policy before it became a state requirement to do, and the goal was to help teachers in the classroom to not have that disruption and have more engagement and stuff. So.
Yep.
Well, then the question is smartwatches also. You know what I mean? You get into that conversation.
Yeah,
That
we've had the AirPod conversations. AirPods
Yeah.
need to be out because they'll be listening to a teacher with an AirPod in, and so yeah, those we've
Never
broached that
ending
topic.
battle.
Yeah, it's a real fun topic at the high school.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
I was gonna, took my joke. He took my joke. So you would think that we, for most part at our school, we have very minimal cell phone conversations. However, we have had to work with some students about just working through consequences of their actions on the internet. And so after the parent meetings that we had with the parents, and we talked about, just the whole conversation around power of, consequences with phones, and you're the adult in the family, and how do you identify the qualities of your family and things like that, and just really having some of those just important conversations. I had a conversation with my fourth grade staff, and just after we talked about kind of some things that were really affecting students on campus and also in the later hours in our community in fourth grade, we ultimately decided to look at commonsense.org that has a digital citizenship curriculum. And so we're going to be implementing just some key lessons this year that are really set towards the conversations that we're dealing with right now. And there's not a lot. I think there's been 4 conversations and for 2 separate incidents. But we found that if we really talk about things like security and what happens when you put your first and last name on the internet and things like that, that those are things that our students are doing in fourth grade. I'm just going to be honest, fourth grade is not the first year they're doing that. But to really understand what that means and what is secure and what's not secure, that maybe we can front load some of the information to our students so that when they do get in a situation where somebody's asking them for information, then they can be mindful about, how they want to respond. So this curriculum has been around for quite a while. commonsense.org has been around, and so we're going to be looking at the I think it's called a passport for digital citizenship, and so we'll take a look at that and go through the lessons and really focus on the ones that we think are most impactful for our students.
Thank you. Okay, so any other questions, comments? Okay.
And we'll do this periodically, maybe quarterly or something like that.
Okay, awesome. Ooh, actually, Shauna, I have a quick question for you. Is any department responsible on Washington's campus for digital literacy? Or is it something that sorry, I don't mean to call you back.
It's okay. It's a short walk.
No, we don't have a particular department, but Leanne Henry in 7th grade, she also teaches social studies. She has a digital literacy class,
Okay.
which I think is fantastic.
That should be something, yeah. I know our history department, we take it on ourselves because we do so much research that just making sure that we talk about how to obviously be online, your online presence, as well as how to research properly and not plagiarize and stuff like that. And oh goodness gracious, that Chat GPT. But again though, depending on what kind of things you're asking, it's kind of, I don't want to use the word hilarious because that sounds like I'm condoning it, but it's yes.
It's a multifaceted tool.
It is, 100%.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're on to R7, summer watering.
Okay, I'm not sure you've ever had this agenda item before, but that's what we're here. We're blazing new trails. We wanted to, being that we are in financial issues, so, and not that we wouldn't anyway, even if we weren't, but you'll notice here, so what you have in your packet, I'm sorry for the font, but there was a lot of information for that. So what we're concerned about is that this year we are going to be spending about $100,000 more on our water bill. Everybody that lives here in Cloverdale has seen their water bill increase. There's no doubt about it. We know that. And We use a lot of water, naturally. We have a lot of students. We have, so the reason for bringing this up is you'll notice under the 24-25 year-to-date total, we are already at 230,000, and last year, all year, we spent 220,000. So you can imagine, and we're coming into some months that might be a little warmer than others, that we are going to be spending, we roughly estimate about $100,000 more this year. So bringing that up means that we need to discuss, because I'm not just going to shut off the water and have brown grass and brown everywhere. That's going to be a district decision. So I'm just wondering if we, I want you to get your advice, and you're okay with potentially lowering our watering for the summer months as well as the fall months. To maybe, instead of doing it every other day, we do it every third day or every fourth day. One other piece that we found out is that there is a well that we have by the football field that was capped. My understanding is due to the fact that obviously we put in a turf field that wouldn't need water necessarily, but also my understanding is that at the time, the well was not producing enough water for us to be able to continue to use that well, so it's been capped. So there is a well, it's still there, it's just not in use. We are bringing out the people that capped it to kind of retest it to see if that's true. We certainly can't water every site or every place with that, but the I don't know what the park is called, but the one in front of my, Kleiser, thank you. Kleiser Park in front of my office, as well as some areas around the high school, would be able to be watered through that well if it's operational. So we're going to find that information out. But that doesn't solve our problem. So I guess what I'm looking for, my recommendation is that we look into being able to, and really, I mean, we can't turn off the water, turn off the toilets, that kind of thing. But we certainly can control the amount that we water. We have had a few leaks. I'm not gonna lie. We've had a few leaks this year where it's cost us a little bit more. You'll see some months are like $40,000, and 2 months that were $40,000. We had a significant leak that we were lucky to catch, and so those kind of things are going to happen throughout. But that's not our entire problem. Our entire problem is that water is just getting more expensive. And we are on, and so if you, not that if you know, but basically there's the water charge and there's the sewer charge, right? Anything that comes through, you automatically pay sewer for, even though that we're using it necessarily to water, right? So I would just like you to back up my recommendation to look at potentially watering less this summer, and again, in the next probably 6 months or so, 6 to 8 months of pulling that back. So questions, comments, or anything?
I think it's great that we're going to create a water schedule. The city used to implement, like, if you lived in certain parts of the town, you could water on these days and not on these days. I think that is fine for us. The fields look great right now, but also we're using them for baseball and different softball and different activities like that.
We haven't really watered yet because of all the rain.
But because of the rain and stuff, but I feel like that having a plan where, it's not 100% going to be brown dead, that we're still going to be able to keep it alive somewhat, I think that's good. We're doing our due diligence to make an effort to reduce the cost.
We have a grounds crew, correct?
Yes.
So I would
Maintenance, ground issue.
I would urge that person, since they have a knowledge and a landscape knowledge, to go around. There's a lot of these plantings that don't need the water like we're doing it. So I do agree. A lot of these established plantings could go without the every day or even once a week watering. So, yeah.
Well, and plus looking down the road, and I don't want to, goodness, cause any type of massive discussion or panic, but with the Potter Valley Water Project, like, we don't know what everything's going to look like at this moment. So I think that would be a smart idea, just for conservation in general.
Yeah, good call.
My background doesn't really have to worry about too much water.
Yeah.
As long as we have the people that are skilled to maintain it for the spring sporting events, for the summer type of picnics or day on the green. I don't want, as long as we're good with keeping it as beautiful as it can be while reducing the costs. That's my only concern. But I'm okay with reducing the costs by any means, with the caveat of maintaining it for functional use.
Yeah, and the main reason too is to get it out there because people are going to ask, what is our, because non-green grass does look a little like it's neglected, right? And so I want to make sure that people understand that we're doing that by design rather than by just ignoring it, right? Because I do think that I'm a big believer that the schools need to look good for students to have pride in their schools. And that's a piece of it, right? But I think it's important that when parents are dropping their kids off and they may see something that maybe is not as lush as it is now, that I want people to understand why it's going instead of us just, looking like it's neglected.
Well, and I think that's what gets back to the evaluation, is because we do leave the fields green, but we sacrifice the planter beds that don't necessarily need the water.
Yeah.
Well, then on top of that, any landscaping that we do going forward, it'd be great to see low water, like decisions get made.
Okay.
So
Anything
just looking at the percentages on page 204, some of the months, like at the high school, I'm guessing that this was where the leak was. There was a 9,082% increase in usage. Is that because there was a leak there?
You mean at the
CHS East under MTM change for December?
Yeah.
Yes, that would be my guess too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had one leak. I think we had one leak at each site, I believe.
Okay.
I know we had one behind Jefferson's. That was a big one. It was a main.
Did we discover those based off of our invoice, or were those brought to our attention from the city, or how did we discover those?
The one at Jefferson actually flooded the fire alarm. So the fire alarm went off, and the fire department showed up, and it was wet. So we figured that. So we found out from that one because it was just literally spewing out of the ground at one of the mains. So we were able to cap that and deal with that. So at various things, sometimes we will just like hear water rushing or different things will happen.
Is the city not crediting us back for doing the repairs and getting it fixed?
It's on our property.
Correct. But even I'm speaking as a homeowner, if you have a break, usually you can go back to the city, say, hey, we had it fixed, and they'll credit back some of the...
Only if it's over a certain percentage, which I don't believe ours is over a certain percentage.
Okay.
Yeah, we've tried that. But as far as the fix itself would be on us.
Oh, correct.
Right,
No.
yes.
Yeah. I'm just trying to recoup water costs.
I hear you.
And any public thoughts, comments? Oh, could we have you step up to the podium, please? And could you state your name for me?
Yes, I will.
I'm Dobie Edmonds, and I, along with my friend, live in Clover Springs. And we are undertaking a 3-year project where our beautiful lawns are all going to be removed. Has to do with a state mandate. And so, as you suggested earlier, what we're trying to do is give a lot of information and education to the people who live there, because it looks so pretty now, and it'll go through some transformation, but it will not be the same. It kind of can't be, because it costs too much and there may not be enough water. So that's one thing to think of, is education, and has to happen.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other questions, comments, thoughts?
Thank you, Glenn.
I was just thinking it might be a good one for either June or July to do in my Cloverdale Connect article to talk about the fact that we're looking at
That'd be smart.
That's a good
that
idea.
part. So.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to discussion action items. So S1, consideration and acceptance of donations. So we'd like to thank the Blackbaud Giving Fund, donated $200 to JEH Continuation High School. Angel Island Immigration Station Foundation donated $1,000 to Washington School. Land Paths donated $1,476.81 to Jefferson School for field trips. Plank Coffee and Roastery donated 10 $5 gift cards to Cloverdale High School. Starbucks Cloverdale donated 5 $4 gift cards to Cloverdale High. Mountain Mike's Pizza donated 4 personal pizza gift certificates to Cloverdale High School. And Papa's Pizza donated 5 gift certificates for a slice of pizza and side of ranch to Cloverdale High School. So thank you so much for all of those donations. And do I have a motion?
Move to approve the acceptance of donations.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Garrison. Second?
I'll second.
Okay, Trustee Ogamian. Preferential?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Next motion. Ashley. Okay. So moving on to S2, consideration and possible approval of resolution 225-16, approving the total base rent for leaseback agreement with Wright Contracting for the Jefferson School UTK Early Education Facilities Project Increment. Sorry.
So we have Brian here to answer any questions or tell us what this is about.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. So as you know, back in February, we awarded the contract to Wright Contracting. So after that, we started developing the total base rent, or the guaranteed maximum price for the project. So we had about a month to get that done, to make it to this board meeting. For the GMP, we have about $4.8 million. This is for all the site work on the project. One of the key things to factor into this is we'll be under 90% under contract for the entire project, which gets us in line to get that TK funding 4 to 6 weeks from now. So pretty much that's where we're at with the project. We still have an additional $4 million coming from the state. I'm hoping, or we're planning on it being approved in September at the state allocation board to help finish off the project. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. One thing to add, I didn't mention, we're not planning on starting any work until we know that money's coming in for sure, and when school gets out on June 7th.
Okay. Thank you so much. Do I have a motion to approve?
Sure, why not? Motion to approve.
Trustee Ogamian makes a motion to approve.
I'll second the
Do I
motion.
have a second?
I'll second
Thank
the
you,
motion.
Trustee Zekowitz. Preferential?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Can you do something about the mosquitoes?
Yeah.
I know, they're awful in here right now. Sorry if I'm like trying, they love me, so. Now moving on to S3, consideration and possible approval of resolution 225-15 to dedicate May 5th through the 9th, 2025 as Employee Appreciation Week. So any questions, or do I have a motion?
Move to approve resolution 225-15 to dedicate May 5th through the 9th, 2025 as Employee Appreciation Week.
Great, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Zekowitz.
I
and
do
thank you.
have, is it the 9th or the 10th?
May 5th through the 9th.
Oh, maybe the cover sheet. The resolution is correct. Is that right?
Yes.
Kathleen?
No, it's,
Yes, it says May 5th through
Just
the 9th.
on here it says the 10th.
it says 10.
Does it?
On
It says the 10th.
on the upper part, but in the body of
Oh,
it,
okay.
it says the 9th.
Okay. So-
Oh yeah, in the
Oh, it says through
resolution
the
it
10th.
does say
Oh,
It says through the 10th.
the 10th. Let's look at the
but it's
calendar.
weird, because it says May 5th through the 9th, and then it says May 10th on the bottom, yeah.
It should be May 5th through the 9th.
Okay.
Yeah, it does.
How does it?
So as with the correction of May 5th through the 9th, 2025,
Okay.
So that lines up with the calendar.
approve the resolution
Yes.
225-15.
So we have a motion by Trustee Garrison with those changes made, May 5th through the 9th, 2025. I have a second by trustee Zeklitz. Preferential?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, now on to consideration and possible acceptance of 2023 to 2024 Measure H Bond Building Fund Audit Report.
So with our bond funds, we need to, just like our funds that we have, we need to have an audit. And so they have to issue a report, basically. And so did you want to go over it a little bit?
I just wanted to say that there were no audit exceptions for 23-24 for Measure H bond funds, which was very good, and as submitted.
Nice.
Any questions from the board?
Everybody's anxious
Or
to say that.
preferential? Okay, do I have a motion to approve? I know, I'm like trying last one. Can you go off?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, trustee Zeklitz makes a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Okay, second made by trustee Ogamian. Preferential?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Now on to future agenda items. We have none. Would anyone like to add a future agenda item? Oh, we are going to add the PE, right? The physical education
We're just moving it.
table. Okay, perfect. So any others that anyone else would like to add?
Next month, we are going to have, we're going to have JEH do a presentation, much like Riley did tonight.
Great. Perfect. Okay, so future board meeting dates, we have May 14th, June 17th, June 18th, and July 9th, all starting at 6 p.m. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn
Okay.
at 7:45.
Okay, so I have a motion to adjourn, 7:45 by trustee Garrison. Do I have a second?
I have a second.
I know. Okay, trustee Zeklitz, preferential?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.